Today's topic is so fun because it's about parties and the things that you can start doing at your next party, social event, business networking event, any kind of social event that will help you look instantly more polished, more chic, and so you can focus on the reason why you're there, to socialize, to network, and less so being insecure about, oh, am I doing this right? Oh, what should I do instead of that? I don't want that for you. I want you to go and have an amazing time. Let's get started. If you're trying to look extra polished, it's a simple thing that we can avoid. Most people might just go ahead and drink from the bottle. But what I would advise instead is to get a glass, pour it into a glass, and then drink from the glass. Now, whether it is water, a Coke, a alcoholic beverage, whatever it is, get a glass that has a stem because it looks a little bit more elevated and it just helps you it actually causes you to have better posture because you actually have to focus on not spilling a drink. So put it in a glass with a stem and walk around the party that way. Taking too many hors d'oeuvres. So whatever you call them, hors d'oeuvres, canapes, appetizers, all those words all mean the same thing. Now, the one thing I have an Instagram and a TikTok where head over there because I post 3 times a week little tips and tricks on how to become more elegant and socially polished and all types of bits of etiquette fun. But if you've seen one of my recent posts, it was about this very topic, which was not to take too many. Don't overtake your share. Now, it's not necessarily just about taking your share, which is part of it and part of good etiquette, but what we want to be careful of is that you're not overfilling. So let's say somebody comes over with a tray of coconut shrimp and they look delicious. What I should do is I take 1 cocktail napkin first. Even if the person offers me the food first, then I'll still reach for the cocktail napkin, and maybe the host offers me that coconut shrimp. And then I would take 1 and I put it on my hand. Thank you very much. And then as they walk away, I would eat my canapé there. And we don't want to take 1, 2, 3, or as many as we want. No matter how good it looks, it can come across greedy. It also is sloppy, causes oil and grease. So 1 at a time, and we eat 1 at a time. The one thing I want you to do at the end of that beverage, we want to make sure we are not doing this. You don't want to get that very last drop by knocking back the glass. It's just one of those things that instead you stop when the glass is horizontal. So that little bit there will get stuck, whatever it might be, your orange juice, your wine, and you stop there, not the knocking it back. Maybe the biggest faux pas today, not saying bye to the host. Now, I understand completely how overwhelming it can be, especially if you feel like you have social anxiety, which many people do. You are not alone. I felt it many times in my life as well. And in certain situations, when you walk into a party, there are a lot of people maybe you don't know. Maybe by the end of the party, you didn't meet many people at all. Whatever the case is, the only person that is so important that you say bye to is the host or the person that invited you. Because if you don't, and the person looks around after 10, 15 minutes and says, where's Myka? Where's Myka? And I have crept out the door because I didn't want to interrupt them or my social anxiety got the best of me. It just can come across as rude. And especially at a house party, especially the smaller the event, the less people, the more likely you should be to say bye to that person that invited you. Now, if it's an event and there's 300 people there, of course, if you can't find your host, that's an exception, but be very, very careful, especially think about a wedding or things like that. It's very important to say goodbye. Now, one thing I should say is that, yes, of course, you don't have to say bye to every single person you spoke with at the event. That's not in any way, proper etiquette to do that. So don't feel pressure to do that, but choose your timing carefully. So when you're at an event or a party, make sure, let's say it's a wedding. Have they cut the cake? Have they had their first dance? Have they given their speeches? All of these really important parts of the event should take place before you leave. And if all the main parts of the evening have taken place, then that is a good time to leave. So just a note there, you never want to be super the first person to leave. And if you do, for whatever situation, then just tell the host ahead of time. I would love to accept your invitation. Thank you so much. One thing to know, I unfortunately do have to be home by X amount of time. Maybe for me, maybe it's relieving my babysitter or whatever it is. People understand, but if that's the case and you are leaving exceptionally early, just tell the host ahead of time so that they know. The next thing you want to make sure of is that you are choosing one. You choose one. So either you are drinking or you're eating. You shouldn't be standing at a party with a plate or a napkin of hors d'oeuvres plus your drink like this. Why? Because the moment someone comes up to you and says, Myka, hi, it's been so long, or hi, I wanted to introduce myself. What do? I've got my hands full and I have to do one of these, oh, I'm so sorry, I would love to shake your hand, but I can't. And it just doesn't come off as super poised or polished. That way I have that free hand and I put my canapes in my left hand during that time so I can shake meet greet with my right hand. If then I am right-handed, then I can go back to that right-handed stance if I'm more comfortable that way too. Another thing, make sure when you have that canapé, hors d'oeuvre, appetizer, whatever we want to call it, let's call it an appetizer for this situation. I have that cocktail sausage. Thank you very much. They go away and I am there left to enjoy my cocktail sausage. Then a lot of people take that napkin and then they crumble it up in their hands. And then it's almost like a adult comfort blanket. We have this oily cocktail napkin scrumpled up in our hand and we walk around these parties. You want to get rid of that crumpled up, and I feel like a lot of you are probably nodding your head. You've been there, you've done this, or you just look and 30 minutes later you're still holding on to that. So it's one thing really easy to do to get rid of, to look instantly more polished, and then back to your hello, I'm here to socialize mode. Okay, another thing to be careful of is how far you fill that glass. So let's say there's a bartender or somebody doing it for you, amazing. If you are pouring your own beverage for any reason at a party, at let's say a house party, and you've been invited to pour your own drinks, then what I want you to make sure is that you're not pouring too high. So this is called the belly of the glass. This is the widest point of the glass. You want to make sure whenever it's wine that you pour toward the belly and no higher. Now if it's orange juice, water, something like that, you can go a little bit higher and that's totally fine. Just to be careful that you're not going all the way up to the top there, because then you're walking around the party and you're balancing it and you're doing one of these which you don't want to. You want to be able to enjoy, have good conversation, and not be worrying about how full is my glass and am I spilling my glass when I'm talking. Now, I talk a lot with my hands, and that's just a part of my personality. I love talking with hands, but I think it's also important to note that when you have a drink in your hand, you want to be very careful that you're not talking with your hands, because that's one way to very easily splash and not look super polished at your next event. Double dipping. Now, I know we know this, but I just have to go over this because at a party, it is a very common thing to have a dip or some kind of something that is a communal, shareable meal. And the amount of times I see people taking that carrot stick, putting it in the hummus, eating it, and then going back for more. You're putting the part of the food that was in your mouth back into that dip, which is not good etiquette because you're putting your germs into that dip, which is horrible for many reasons, including hygiene and getting people sick and germs. We just don't want to do that. So if there is a serving utensil, we always use it. Always look for that first, a little spoon. If the host has not provided one, then you might be forced to dip. Up to you if you want to do that or not. Now, I get this question a lot. No judgment. This is a judgment-free zone. But this is a funny one. So Myka, if I take that carrot and I dip it, can I turn the carrot, the side that I have not eaten, and then dip it again? Sadly, no. We do not double dip in any way. Once that carrot stick has gone into your mouth, we do not put it back in that dip. So I hope that's helpful. This next one is really important. Talking about yourself and talking about yourself too much. This is something that is a skill. It's something that when people get nervous, I find they just talk really fast or about themselves, and they don't realize it because they don't know what to talk about. So they just talk about themselves or their interests, and then that person sitting across from them is, And, you know, sometimes I look around a room and I observe interactions. I love the psychology behind people and you know, their interactions. And it's really important to make sure if you are in a conversation and only one person is sitting there for too long, that's a sign you need to say, and how about you? Tell me more about your recent trip, or tell me more, you know, whatever you've been talking about, and say, have you ever experienced this? Whatever it is you've been talking about, turn the table and get them involved. And that's really important, to be aware of how much you're talking and how much you're talking about yourself, and making sure it's a backwards and forwards conversation. So I will make a video coming up on the best conversation starters and also how to keep conversation going, because I think this is so important. So if this is of interest, let me know and I will up it on my list of videos to make for you. Just let me know in the comments if you find this helpful, but I have literally a list of things that I like to talk about at parties and ask people at parties. So if that's helpful, that's not for a few more videos, but I can up it if you want. Overstaying, you're welcome. Make sure that you are not the last or in the last 25% of the party to be there. So if you look around and it's packed and everybody's having a great time, and all of a sudden you look around and you are one of the last people there, or the last quarter of the party to be there, it is time to say your goodbyes. That's my general rule of thumb. So be careful there, because sometimes the host, it's so hard to host. It takes a lot of energy and effort, and sometimes cleaning if it's at somebody's home. So you don't want to overstay your welcome. If there's an invitation time that says the party is from 7 to 11 p.m., make sure you're respectful of that. At 10:45, you start, you know, getting your stuff together. Even if it's a great party, just the person put that 11 p.m. stop time for a reason. So we want to be very respectful of that. There you have it. My tips to be elegant and more poised at your next party, whether it is a social event, a business event, or networking party, to help you feel really confident. Now, on that note, I cannot wait to see you next week, and any special requests, let me know. Otherwise, I want to hear, are there any here that you are constantly doing and think, not anymore, or any that we missed? I'd love to hear, so we can all learn from you as well in the comment section, and I will reply back and let you know what I think as well. I'm Myka Meier, and thank you so much for joining.